Hello, back again to make another video, and as you read from the title, we're going to return to this topic of just what can you get in a flashlight for under $3. Now, if that title sounds familiar, it's because I did do a video, I think titled just that, and I did that before. And the reason I'm returning to this and going another go-around is because the flashlight I picked last time had some features that which on their own were cool. I believe it also led to the flashlight failing earlier than it otherwise would have. So this time I got a flashlight that I think will hold up better, and I'll explain what the features it has or doesn't have that I think will allow this to last longer. All right. A place that most people will go to get it is that popular online shopping site that starts with an A, and on that site you can pick up 10 packs of these, and I think it's like 21 some dollars, so you're paying basically $2.20 some or $2 and some pennies for one of these, and then you get a pack of 10. Okay, and there are now, so yes, they're very affordable. Now the other thing is that what was it? Oh yeah, what brand is this? Okay, and to be frank, it really doesn't matter because this light, this what you're seeing here is a design that's unbranded. So you're going to see a whole bunch of different names, all basically for the same flashlight. All right. So what name it is really doesn't matter. Just look for a light that looks like this, and is powered by one AAA battery, and you'll have this. Now, let's now jump over to why I picked this one as opposed to the one I picked last time. First of all, you already all right. So here you go. So the first thing reason I picked this one is because it's a AAA battery versus a AA battery. Yeah, so you're not going to have as much runtime as far as use, but the advantage is it's more narrow. So it's more dense, and therefore I think it's going to be more sturdy. All right, there's basically more metal. The ratio of a shell to inside space is increased. More shell. Okay, so that's one reason. The other reason is that it does not have the zoom function. Okay, so the other one, as you recall, you could pull this part in and out, and then it would zoom the light because it moves the lens away from the bulb, and hence it gives you a different pattern. Okay, that was cool, but it also meant that the thing was more fragile. Moving parts, especially when they're extended out, are more prone to breaking. All right, the other thing is that this one is something that I'm going to point out because there are some of these lights that have a ring around here, so it'll usually be like silver. And with that ring, which isn't not on this one, what that does though is that they put in the lens and then they screw that little ring, and that kind of holds in the lens. And it gives it a little bit of class because it's shiny black. The silver contrasts with the black, and yeah, it looks nice. But the problem is that can easily unscrew, and then your lens can just fall out. So you'll notice that there's not that on here. So there we are. So those are the features and why I picked this. And yep, we have the tail clicky. Okay. And it's only one option, or off and on. Okay, there are not a whole bunch of different dimming modes or strobe or anything like that. And again, the reason I went that route is because I figured the less complexity, the less things that can break, right? So there we go. So this is about as bare bones as it gets. And yes, just to be thorough, this thing here is all aluminum alloy, so it's metal. Of course, well, the button isn't metal, and the lens, which we'll look at it right now. Okay, obviously that's not metal, but those would be the two weakest things on here. But I think they're pretty well. This you see the lens here, the lens. You can see how it's sunk in a little there, so that should give it some protection from being dropped, right? And then this button here, as you look, you see how well it's almost completely hidden by this the back, the bezel, or whatever you want to call it, right? So it's even like I push, the flashlight body takes up the impact before it breaks the button. So yeah, so you have to kind of find it. It's not as easy to find because it's in there a little bit. Again, it's worth the protection. So we're going for durability here, all right? All right, and let's look at the back side, namely when it's open. Since this is the side that you'll be opening to put in the battery, and then hopefully closing up tight enough that water doesn't get in there. So let's look at it. So we do have some, looks like aluminum threads there. And then on this part here, the actual tail cap, we have our spring, of course, And then if you notice right here, there is a O-ring or a gasket. So that should give us some degree of waterproofing. Now I'm going to assume that although you can probably submerge this, I think it's more meant for, what do you call it, weatherproof, where it gets splashed with water, it might fall in a puddle or something, but yeah, I don't think it's really rated for actual submerging for any length of time. Now, again, a quick dip probably can get away with, but I wouldn't push it much past that. All right. So there it is. That's the flashlight. And now let's go ahead and test it. One thing I will point out as far as how it comes in a little white box like this. And it has a little bit of bubble wrap around it. And it does not come with a battery, which is more than fine, because if they did include a battery, it would be like probably a really cheap one, which you'd be better off not using anyway. So bring your own battery, but yeah, it's one AAA battery. I think you can find one of those, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and get a battery here and we'll start testing. Alright, so I went ahead and put in a battery. I dropped in one AAA alkaline. So I went with what I use as bulk battery around here. Now the bulk batteries I use are not super high end, but they're also not junk either. So they're kind of nice in the middle, a middle ground, and I think that's good because I think that's kind of what most people are going to be putting in here. So this should be representative. Okay, now what else was I going to say? So what we're going to do here, of course, a lot of tests, but the first one we're just going to turn it on and see what it looks like. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and shine the flashlight at the door, not only because the door is just conveniently there, but also because it is a darker surface, a darker color surface, and of course what that'll do when I shine this light on it, some of that light will be sucked up by the door, and then the remainder, of course, will go into the camera lens sensor, and that's what you'll see. Now, the reason I do that is because if I were just to shine this on a white wall and point the camera at the wall, all you're going to see is a huge flash of light, and it's going to kind of somewhat overpower the sensor, and you're just going to know it's really bright. You're not going to know how bright, it's just really bright. So I think this is a better way of actually kind of measuring visually what it looks like, and you get the idea. Alright, so to start off with, I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little lantern on as I turn off the main light, so that the camera can at least focus, and then I'll turn off the lantern and then go ahead and turn this on, and we'll see just how bright this thing is. So without further ado, let's get this started. Alright, so here we go. Again, you're seeing the light from the lantern right now. So I'll go ahead and turn that one off. Alright, there you go. So now here comes the flashlight. Alright. It's actually quite bright. I mean, working with what we have here, this is actually quite bright. And you see we definitely have a hot spot in the middle. And then we have a pretty big shoulder there where we get also, obviously not as bright light, but still light nonetheless. And that can also be utilized. Yeah, so, alright, there it is. Alright, so just how bright was that? I went ahead and took a measurement. So I used my lux meter, and yes, I said lux meter, not lumen meter. So how many luxes was it? Well, to find out, I put this flashlight 2 feet away from the sensor. The sensor is a circle, looks like a disc basically. And it has a diameter of 7/8 inch, so a little under an inch across, and so had this pointed directly at it, so basically it was hitting at a perpendicular angle, so a 0 angle, or direct broadside to the target, if that's the way you want to phrase it. So anyways, with those parameters, it read 846 lux, which is actually pretty darn good. Alright, so this has been in the freezer for 5 hours. I took a non-contact temperature using this guy here, and I got 28.5 degrees, so it's under freezing. You can already see it starting to warm up, just being out of the freezer here in the ambient temperature of the room. You can see it started getting condensation on it, but it has been below freezing. So now let's go see if it works. Yep. Alright, update. We have a new flashlight here. So what happened is, after the test you saw with putting it in the freezer, I did another test. And this next test I was doing is a different type of test. It was just way too extreme for the flashlight. It destroyed it. Now, To be fair, I don't really know many flashlights that could have really taken that test in past, so that was kind of being a little overzealous on that one. Anyway, so no fault of the flashlight. So, but the review must continue. So I went ahead and pulled out another flashlight from the same order. So this came with the other one that you saw earlier, and I went ahead and did everything, put in the same type of battery and all that. And since I do pay close attention to things, I definitely notice a very slight difference. You might not even notice it, but if you look here, there's an extra ring here on the body, the fuselage. So the other one, you recall, didn't have this, where I'm pointing right now. You see this wider band? It didn't have that on the other one. So I think it was like only 2 of these thin guys and then nothing, but this one has an extra. So the good news about that is, well, I guess you could say it adds better grip, but more than that, this is the pattern that I see when I shop online for these, going to different sites just to see where you could get it. This seems to be the pattern that's most common. So, but other than that, everything else is like the same. So, okay, whatever. Maybe that one was an oddball, but anyway, but to be thorough, I went ahead and put this through the lux test. I already explained how I did it earlier in the video, but so this time around with this flashlight, I got a lux reading of 1,640. So that's a notable increase from the last test with the other flashlight. And I'm wondering if I just got the hot part of the pattern in better focus on the sensor, or maybe this one just is a little more powerful, or maybe the other one was a little weaker than it should have been. Who only knows? But since this one's performing better, we're just going to continue on with the test. And since this seems again to be the pattern that's most commonly had. So, all right, carrying on. All right, so for the next test, I'm going to call this the clicker responsiveness / durability test. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to push this button 10 times, basically as fast as I can. So that'll be, 5 on-offs, right? And the point of this is to see that the clicker switch can keep up with me pressing it, and also that it doesn't get stuck or anything like that. Okay, so pretty simple and straightforward. So here we go. I'll try to keep everything in frame for you there. So, all right, here I'll press it like this already. 10 pushes. Here we go. Yep, and it still works. Pass. All right, so for the next test, it will be the submerge in water test, and which I've done this time around is I got a tray that is, you can see there, it says deep as the flashlight is tall when it's laying on its side. And the idea behind this was to simulate like a puddle, like you drop this in a puddle, as opposed to me like throwing it in like a deep, like a pool, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is because I think from what I can gather, this is supposed to be what they call like daily life water resistant, which means things that would happen on a normal basis. You get caught out in the rain, again, you drop it in a puddle, or maybe you spill your, Gatorade on it or something like that, but not throwing it in a lake, okay? So here we go. So we have our puddle, right? And I have some water here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn the flashlight on, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and just pour in this water. Okay, so you can see it's submerged in the water. Roll it around a bit. Splash water on the floor, because why not? And, okay, well, it's still working. So, turn it off, turn it on, pass. There we go. Okay, so here we're going to do the drop test. I'm going to drop it from shoulder height. So we'll turn the flashlight on, so you see it's on. This is shoulder height, dropping it straight on the concrete. Picking it up. Still works. See if it turns off. Turn on. Pass. Alright, so back inside here. Before we get to the conclusion, I just want to go over a quick disclaimer, and that's regarding my use of this item. And that is to say that my use of this item, up to this point, has been limited to that of making this video. So what you saw in this video is how much I've used this flashlight. So if you ask me how much more abuse could this thing take, I can't be very sure, but I can tell you this, that the fact that it's still working, even after how much abuse I've already put it through, should be a very good testament to just how durable this little guy is. All right, so near future me adding something to this review, and this regarding durability. So after making the review that you'll continue seeing after I get this little segment done, you'll see that the flashlight was still working even as I finished the review. However, after that, I've been playing around with this thing, kind of almost more like using it like a fidget toy, and every so often click, click, on, off, just to kill time or whatever, fidgeting. But I have noticed during that every so often I'll click the button and the flashlight won't come on, and so it's rare, but it does happen. So my guess is that after that fall onto the asphalt, something in here must have come a little bit loose, and every so often things don't line up and you don't get any light. But it's easily remedied by just giving it a quick flick or so, and then the light will come on. And then it usually will stay on for a while, so whatever. You're going to ask me, do I still consider this to have passed the test? And the answer is yes, because as you see in the video, it did work right after the fall, and it even worked afterwards as I was finishing this review. So now, let's say you were out camping and the similar thing happened and it got to the situation where this is now, right? Where every so often it doesn't turn on when you hit the button. Well, you give it a flick, it comes on, you make your way back to base camp, and then once you're there, you can grab another flashlight, or heck, since these things are so affordable, you could have 3 of these in your pocket, right? So one breaks, whatever, just grab another one. So I'm going to call it a pass for those 2 reasons. Alright, so now let's move on to the conclusion. Would I recommend this item? That's an easy one, of course. And not only would I recommend this item, but I'd say this is a very good, this is a very good example that you can kind of shove in the face of all those who say they can't be bothered to EDC an actual flashlight.